Good morning. This is a video on a playlist. This is probably going to be the most boring video you watch all day. This is on fat. Okay, we're putting it in the food playlist. It's going to be a lot of the law, which is so dry, I think. But the very first instance of the word fat was right in the beginning there, Genesis 4. And Abel, he also brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and his offering. Okay? He had a problem with the vegetables. Okay. We also see it in Genesis 41. The ill-flavored and lean-fleshed kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kind. That was Pharaoh's dream, where there was 7 skinny cows and 7 fat cows, and the skinny ones ate the big fat ones, and then they were still skinny. Like, it didn't help. Okay. Genesis 45. That's the one I have open here. News reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers came to town, and Pharaoh was pleased to hear it, as were his servants. And Pharaoh told Joseph, "Say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts and go off to the land of Canaan. Fetch your father and your family and come back to me, and I will give you the best the land of Egypt offers, and you shall feed on the fat of the land. And you, for your part, give them this command. Do this. Take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives. Get your father and come. Never mind about your property, for the best of the land of Egypt is yours." Okay, so we have that one. Exodus 23, thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain till the morning. Exodus 29:13, thou shalt take all the fat that covered the inwards and the caul that's above the liver and the 2 kidneys and the fat that's on them, burn them on the altar. Exodus 29, thou shalt take of the ram the fat and the rump and the fat that covers the inward parts and the caul above the liver, the 2 kidneys and the fat, and the right shoulder, for it is a ram of consecration. That's Exodus 29. We also see it in Leviticus 3. In the offering of peace, offer the sacrifice of peace, which is an offering made by fire unto the Lord, which is the fat that covers the inwards and all the fat that's on the inwards. Leviticus 3. It's called the communion sacrifice. Maybe I'll just read it from the book here. Hold on. Because Leviticus 3 and 4, like, it's just loaded with fat. Pork bill. Alright, hold on. I'm just going to read you the whole thing. Okay. It is a man's sacrifice. If a man's sacrifice is a communion sacrifice, and if he offers an animal from the herd, male or female, whatever he offers before the Lord must be without blemish. He is to lay his hand on the victim's head and emulate it at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the sons of Aaron the priests must pour out the blood on the borders of the altar, and he is to offer part of the sacrifice as a burnt offering for the Lord. the fat that covers the entrails and all the fat that's on the entrails, the 2 kidneys, the fat on them and the loins, the fatty mass which he is to remove from the liver and kidneys. The sons of Aaron must burn this part on the altar in addition to the holocaust on the wood of fire. It will be a burnt offering, and its fragrance will appease the Lord. Okay. If it is an animal from the flock that he's offering as a communion sacrifice for the Lord, he is to offer a male or female without blemish. If he offers a sheep, he is to offer it before the Lord and is lay his hands on the victim's head and immolate it, immolate, in front of the tent of meeting. Then the sons of Aaron shall pour out its blood on the borders of the altar. Of this communion sacrifice he is to offer the following as a burnt offering for the Lord: the fat, all the tail taken off near the sacrum, the fat that covers the entrails, the fat that's on the entrails, the 2 kidneys, the fat that's on them, and the loins, the fatty mass he will remove from the liver and kidneys. The priest must burn this part on the altar as food, as a burnt offering for the Lord. If his offering is a goat, he is to offer it before the Lord. He is to lay his hands on the victim's heads and immolate it in front of the tent of the meeting, and the sons of Aaron shall pour his blood on the borders of the altar. Then this is what he is to offer as a burnt offering to the Lord: the fat that covers the entrails, all the fat that's on the entrails, 2 kidneys, the fat that's on them, and the loins, the fatty mass which he will remove from the liver and the kidneys. The priest must burn these pieces on the altar as food, as a burnt offering for the Lord. All the fat belongs to the Lord. This is a perpetual law for all your descendants. Wherever you may live, never eat either fat or blood. Okay, so you weren't supposed to eat it. You were supposed to burn it, I guess, for these things. We also have Leviticus 4. Let me see where that starts. It starts right in the beginning, too. The sins of the high priest. The Lord spoke to Moses. He said, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say, a man may sin inadvertently against one of the commandments of the Lord and do one of the forbidden things. In such a case, if the one who sins is an anointed priest, thus making the people guilty, then for the sin which he has committed, he is to offer the Lord a young bull, an animal from the herd without blemish, as a sacrifice for sin. He is to bring the bull before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and he is to lay his hand on its head and immolate it before the Lord. Then the anointed priest must take a little of the blood of the bull and take it into the tent of meeting. He shall dip his finger in the blood, sprinkle it all over the veil of the sanctuary 7 times before the Lord. Then the priest must put a little of the blood of the bull on the horns of the altar of incense that smokes before the Lord in the tent of meeting. He is to pour all the rest of the bull's blood at the foot of the altar of holocaust at the entrance of the tent of meeting. All of the fat of this bull offered as a sacrifice for sin. This is what he will remove: the fat that covers the entrails, all the fat on the entrails, the 2 kidneys, the fat that is on them, and the loins, the fatty mass which he will remove from the liver and the kidneys, exactly as was done with the portion set apart in the communion sacrifices. The priest must burn these on the altar of holocaust: the bull's skin, all its flesh, its head, legs, entrails, and dung. The whole bull must be carried outside of the camp to a place that's clean, the place wherein the ashes and fat are thrown away. The bull must be burned there. If the whole community of Israel sinned inadvertently and without being aware of it has done something that's forbidden by the commandments of the Lord, the community is to offer a young bull as a sacrifice for sin, an animal of the herd without blemish. When the sin of which they have been guilty is discovered, the animal must be brought before the tent of meeting, before the Lord. The elders of the community shall lay their hands on the bull's head, and it must be immolated before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to carry a little bit of the blood of the bull into the tent of meeting. He is to dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle the veil before the Lord 7 times. He must put a little blood on the horns of the altar that stands before the Lord inside the tent of the meeting, and then pour out the rest of the blood at the foot of the altar of holocaust at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Then he is to remove all the fat from the animal and burn it on the altar. He must treat this bull as he did the others for sacrifice of sin. It is to be treated in the same way. When the priest has performed the rite of atonement over the people, he will be forgiven. He must have the bull taken out of the camp and burn it as he burned the first one. This is the sacrifice for the sins of a community. When a leader sins inadvertently and does one of the things forbidden by the commandments of the Lord his God, thus rendering himself guilty, or if anyone draws his attention to the sin thus he committed, he is to bring a goat as an offering, male, without blemish, lay his hands on the goat's head, and immolate in the place where the holocausts are immolated before the Lord. This is the sacrifice for sin. The priest is to take a little of the victim's blood on his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of holocaust. Then he must pour out its blood at the foot of the altar of the holocaust, and burn all the fat on the altar as with the fat in the communion sacrifices. This is how the priest is to perform the rite of atonement over this leader to free him from sin, and he will be forgiven. If one of the people sins inadvertently and makes himself guilty by doing something forbidden by the commandments of the Lord, or if anyone draws his attention to his sin that he's committed, he is to bring a she-goat as an offering for the sin he committed, a female, without blemish. He is to lay his hands on the victims' heads and immolate it in the place where the holocausts are immolated. The priest is to take a little of his blood on his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of holocaust. Then he must pour all the rest of the blood at the foot of the altar. Then he is to remove all the fat, as the fat was removed for the communion sacrifices, and the priest shall burn it on the altar as an appeasing fragrance for the Lord. This is how the priest is to perform the rite of atonement over a man. Then he will be forgiven. If he wishes to bring a lamb as an offering for this kind of sacrifice, he is to bring a female without blemish and lay his hands on the victim's head and immolate it as a sacrifice for sin in the place where the holocausts are immolated. The priest is to take a little of the blood of the sacrifice on his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of holocaust. Then he must pour out all the rest of the blood at the foot of the altar, and he is to remove the fat, as was done for the sheep in the communion sacrifices, and the priest shall burn it on the altar in addition to the burnt offering for the Lord. This is how the priest is to perform the rite of atonement over a man, and he will be forgiven. Okay, so that was a lot of things that's like the same thing over and over, but it was for different sins. So we also have Leviticus 7. Peace offerings talks about Leviticus 6:12. The fire shall be burning. The priest shall burn wood on it every morning and lay the burnt offerings upon it, and he shall burn the fat for the peace offerings. You have a sacrifice of reparation. This is the ritual of the sacrifice of reparation. It is a most holy thing. Okay, most holy. So let's have some coffee. Okay, most holy. The victim to be immolated in the place where the holocausts are immolated, and the priest must pour out the blood on the borders of the altar. Then he is to offer all the fat, the tail, the fat that covers the tail, the 2 kidneys, the fat that's on them, and the loins. The fatty mass he will remove from the liver and kidneys. The priest must burn these pieces on the altar as a burnt offering for the Lord. This is a sacrifice of reparation. Every male who is a priest may eat it. It must be eaten in the holy place. It is a most holy thing. Okay. We got, let's skip to like something in the Newer Testament, because fat I don't even know if that's even in the New Testament, but it's in Amos 5:2. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them, neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. The word press fat is in there. Never heard that word, never used it. Haggai 2:16, since those days were, when one came to a heap of 20 measures, there were 10. When one came to the press fat for to draw out 50 vessels of the press, there were but 20. Ezekiel 45:15, one lamb out of the flock out of the 200 out of the fat pastures of Israel for a meat offering and burnt offering and a peace offerings to make reconciliation for them. Ezekiel 44, if you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart, uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, when ye offer my bread, the fat and the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. Ezekiel 44:15, but the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of the sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister unto me, and they shall stand before me to offer unto me the fat and the blood. Ezekiel 39, you shall eat fat till you be full, and drink blood till you be drunken of my sacrifice which I have sacrificed for you. Ezekiel 34, I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. There shall they lie in good fold, in a fat pasture they shall feed upon the mountains of Israel. I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and bind up that which was broken, and I will strengthen that which was sick, but I will destroy the fat and the strong, and feed them a judgment. Ezekiel 34:16, that was. Thus saith the Lord God unto them, behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle. Jeremiah 50, because you were glad and because you rejoiced, O destroyers of my heritage, because you are grown fat as a heifer. I didn't want to read the whole thing. It's Jeremiah 50. How about Isaiah 58? The Lord shall guide thee continually, and shall satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose water shall not fail. Isaiah 43, thou hast brought me no sweet cane with money, neither hast thou filled me with fat of thy sacrifices, but thou hast made me to serve with thy sins, and hast wearied me with thine iniquities. Isaiah 34, that talks about unicorns. How about the sword of the Lord is filled with blood, it is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks and the bulls, and the land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. Isaiah 28, woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are covered with wine. 24, and the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, and the hasty fruit before summer, which when he looketh up upon it, seeth, while it is yet in his hands, he eateth it up. And he shall give the rain of thy seed, and thou shalt sow the ground withal, and the bread of the increase of the earth, and it shall be fat and plenteous. In the day shall thy cattle feed in large pastures. Isaiah 25, and in this mountain shall the Lord of hosts make unto all his people a feast of fat things, feast of wines on the lees, of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the lees, Lees, well refined. Isaiah 10, therefore shall the Lord of hosts send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of fire. Isaiah 5:17, then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall the strangers eat. Isaiah 1:11, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, saith the Lord? I am full of the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts. I delight not in the blood of bullocks, lambs, or he-goats. Psalms 119:70, their heart is fat as grease, but I delight in law. Psalms 92:14, they shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. Psalms 37:20, the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume. Into smoke they shall consume away. And they that be fat upon the earth shall eat and worship, and all they that go down to the dust shall bow before him. None can keep alive his own soul. That's Psalms 22:29. How about this word, collops of fat? Because he covered his face with fatness, and make collops of fat on his flanks. That must be love handles, collops. COLLOPS. How about Nehemiah? They took strong cities and a fat land. They possessed the houses full of all goods, well-digged vineyards and olive yards and fruit trees in abundance. And they did eat and were filled and became fat, delighted themselves in the great goodness. Later, a little bit later, Nehemiah 9:35, they have not served thee in their kingdom, and in their great goodness thou gavest them, and in the large and fat land which thou gavest them. Cut.